Good day, everyone, and welcome to the UFC conference call. Today's call is being recorded. At this time, I would like to turn the conference to Dave Schaller. Please go ahead, sir.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the UFC Live Cruz versus Johnson conference call. UFC Live takes place this Saturday, October 1st from the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. It will be broadcast live on Versus at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Today we are joined on the call by bantamweight champion Dominick Cruz, #1 contender Demetrius Johnson, as well as the heavyweights who will be in the co-main event, Pat Barry and Stefan Struve. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up for questions.
Thank you. To ask a question, please press *1 on your phone at this time. Keep in mind if you are on a speakerphone to depress your mute function to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Again, that's *1 to ask a question. We'll pause for a moment to assemble the queue. Our first question comes from Neil Davidson of the Canadian Press.
Yes, thank you. Dominick, my question is for you. You had written in your blog that your win over Faber was important to you because you wanted to show how you had improved and remade yourself from the first fight. Having ticked off that box, did you have to kind of reset your goals for subsequent title fights? Was there any kind of mental recalibration after you had achieved this goal that had been staring at you for a few years, I guess?
Not really. I mean, like my career is bigger than just beating Faber. There's more goals that I had set past that. That was just something that is more like one of those things I felt I needed to do for myself to feel like to kind of show the way that I was improving for myself. But it was real easy getting up for this fight and setting up new goals for myself and being prepared for Demetrius. I mean, he's got a lot of things that he's good at, and he's got a lot of different tools he brings to the table. So it's an exciting fight, and I'm prepared for it and excited to go into it.
And if I could just follow up, obviously this is a different opponent you're facing. You and Uriah, your differences were quite well documented. Demetrius is a pretty likable guy. How do you get on with him?
It's not an issue. I mean, me and him have done press together. We haven't had any issues. I think we respect each other as fighters. But, I mean, needless to say, it doesn't mean that we're not going to go in there and try to punch each other's faces in. It's just kind of the game, and we understand that. I mean, you have a choice going into a fight. You can either get along with the person and fight him anyways, or you can butt heads and fight him anyways. So I think, for me, I have no issue with Demetrius. I'm just going to go in there and do what I do and fight my fight. And, you know, I got no problems with the guy.
Thank you. And if I can just ask Demetrius a quick question. Demetrius, you're the challenger, so one would expect you're the underdog, but the odds makers have you 4-1, or rather they have Dominick as a 4 or 5-1 favorite. Given the people you've beat recently, do you think that you're being overlooked in some quarters?
You know, I don't think so. It's just the way the world sees me. You know, it's the story of my life. You know, every fight I came into, I've been an underdog, and it doesn't bother me at all. You know, I plan on going there and putting on a great fight for the UFC and the fans, and looking forward to getting there with Dominick and just, you know, show the world what I got.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
As a reminder, that's *1 if you would like to ask a question. We'll go next to Bo Durer with ESPN.com.
Yes, thanks. For Dominick, you've headlined cards on Versus before, the WEC banner. Now you're headlining another card on Versus for the UFC. Does it feel any different?
Yeah, it definitely feels different. I mean, the media is chopped probably in half, you know, the responsibilities and stuff that you have to take care of media-wise pretty much. But other than that, it feels like I'm back in the WC again a lot. I mean, I was prepared a lot for everything that I had coming into this fight because of the media I had in that pay-per-view card with Faber. I feel like that kind of set the bar for me in the level of stuff that responsibilities I was going to have to take care of prior to the fight. And I wouldn't say that it's easier because all the work is the same. It's just as hard work-wise when it comes to training, but the level of media that you have to take care of and responsibilities in that aspect are definitely chopped in half.
And is this one of the bigger venues that you fought in?
I think so. I'd like to think so. I mean, probably because it's with the UFC. All my other shows were in the WEC besides the pay-per-view card. The pay-per-view card was the biggest show I've fought in so far, I believe. But this is probably right thereafter. Any fight in the UFC is probably going to be the next biggest cards that I've had since I've only had one fight there.
And for Demetrius, how do you feel the transition has gone in getting the lighter weight fighters into the UFC and seeing them now on the Ultimate Fighter and on UFC cards?
I think the transition's gone very smoothly. Like Dominic said, it's just like WEC. You have all the same workers working for you, and getting you around, make sure you're getting your weight down and all that stuff. And it's been nice for the lighter weights to get a bigger stage to fight on UFC because you get a lot of notoriety with the UFC. If you're out and about, with your day, and people are like, "Oh, what do you fight for?" And I'm like, "Oh, I fight for the WEC." They're like, well, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's Zuffa, it's UFC." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And so I think the smooth transition has gone pretty awesome, and I think all the lighter weights, the featherweights and the bantamweights have been able to enjoy it.
All right, thanks, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Dave Meltzer of Yahoo Sports.
Hi, for Dominick, for Demetrius, I mean. First of all, are you still working full time, or when? And if you're not, when did you give that up? And what exactly were you doing at the time?
I am not working full time anymore. I gave that up once I got the call that I was going to be fighting Dominick. I thought, it's tough to fight. Dominick's on a different level than everybody else, and I thought I owed it to the fans and myself and my family and all my training partners to, train full time. And before I wasn't training full time, I was working at a construction recycling plant where I would go in the morning like at 7 or sometimes at 5, depending on the day, and then go there, run a machine, drive a forklift, dump scrap, carry construction tubes across the warehouse. I mean, it was basically it was a labor job, and I did it for all my fights, Brad Pickett, Miguel Torres, all those fights. And after I get done fighting those guys, I get home on Sunday. It wasn't like, woo, let's go out and party, come on. I was like, man, I gotta wake up and get up and go to work the next morning on Monday at 6 o'clock. Whether when I broke my leg against Miguel Torres, I was at work that Monday, walking around the warehouse with a broken leg, and so that's what I did. But now I'm a full-time fighter, and I can just dedicate 110%, on fighting Dominick Cruz. And so far, I hope it pays off.
As far as being rested and, just the last couple of weeks, comparing this to, say, the last couple of weeks before Torres or some of your other fights, I mean, how much improvement do you think you've made, and how much of a difference do you think this has made?
I'm hoping it's going to make a huge difference. Who knows? When I fought, the previous times I came out, I never got tired. And when I was working 40 hours a week, I barely got any rest. I mean, I get off work at 3, then I'd be at the gym by like 4 o'clock, and then work out to like 6:30, and then go home and then wake up and do it all over again. Now I'm waking up and going to the gym, getting my swimming, my running, and my lift on, and going home chilling, going back to the gym, doing my CrossFit, then going to the AMC gym, training there, then going home and doing that like consistently, for 8 weeks straight instead of, I wouldn't call it half-assing it, but just getting by back in the day. So I feel a huge improvement. My speed's a lot faster. My weight hasn't really got up, but my strength has got a lot higher. And I feel good all around. I feel, a calm confidence, and, I'm just ready to go out there and see if it really pays off.
And for Dominick, what do you see when you look at Demetrius? I mean, what do you see as far as like the most dangerous aspects of his game? And obviously, it's a completely different fighter than Faber. I mean, what kind of contrast, like what would be different in fighting him than and what you would have to do different in fighting him to compare to Faber?
Really, some of the things that I see are he's kind of got momentum behind him with these wins. One, on top of that, he's considered an underdog, and I know how that feels. I came up very similar as him early in my career, where I was working full-time job and trying to juggle that at the same time as my fight career. And then, you know, you have all these naysayers that say you can't do it, you can't beat so-and-so, this guy's the next in coming, and I went out there and did it. So it just kind of, I know it kind of lights a fire into your butt to hear that you're an underdog. So I just understand that that's something that he brings to the table and keeps in his mind all the time. So it's kind of a lot of what's challenging about him is his mindset. He's got a big heart. He's got great cardio, and he's got a good speed and a good rhythm. Something that he does differently that a lot of guys in my division haven't done so far is he's got a rhythm in his stand-up style. So he kind of moves in a certain way. Other fighters know what I mean by you fight with a rhythm, or you fight kind of flat-footed and you try to pick and choose when you're going to throw. He fights off a rhythm. So those are some of the things he brings to the table, and I'll adjust to as the fight goes on, and what I've been preparing for throughout my camp.
And as far as like the speed aspect of the game, and one of the things I think that's benefited you in your last several fights is that you've had a speed edge on everyone that you fought, and he's really a quick fighter. I mean, what kind of do you think that that's kind of something that that you're going to be tested on speed in this fight?
I mean, it's always a test. Benavidez was a test on speed. Faber was a test on speed. Those guys, I mean, you can't get a lot quicker than those guys. The difference is there's different kinds of speed, you know. Demetrius has good speed in and out and on his feet, where those guys were speedy with quick movements, punches and kicks and whatnot. So it's just a little bit different type of speed. But range nullifies speed, because as long as I keep the range where I want to keep it, and as long as I keep the fight where I want to keep it, you know I'm quick too, and I fight differently than anybody that he's fought. So there's things that he's going to have to deal with as well in my style that can kind of mess around with his quickness.
And for Demetrius, like you know, he did make a good point in the sense that this is a very different fighter than anyone you fought before. I mean, what do you think, like, you know, what makes him different, and what have you done differently to lead to this fight?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's definitely a different fighter, probably one of the best fighters I'm ever going to fight. And, you know, he does fight in a rhythm aspect, too. You know, he's not just that type of fighter who just sits there and explodes. He always has a rhythm. He's always making his opponents adjust, and he's always reading you, reading you, see how you react to his feints or whatever. And that's, you know, a very elite fighter that has evolved, and it's always making adjustments during the fight instead of, okay, I'm going to go in here and fight, and I'm just going to fight. So he's always reading you, and I made a lot of adjustments into my style of fighting, and, you know, training and preparing for Dominick. You know, everybody says, man, it's so hard to prepare for somebody like Dominick, and one of my coaches who teaches me all my footwork and the style I do, I'm inspiring him, and he's watched like 15 hours of footage on Dominick, and he's basically, we call him the Black Dominick in the gym, because when I come in, he'll start, you know, imitating Dominick, and then I'll spar him, and he's like 170 pounds, and he's faster than I am, and he's, you know, he's a better stand-up artist, and he's able to fight me in the right spots where he can basically take somebody's style. Like, he can imitate Floyd Mayweather and be like, okay, Floyd Mayweather does this, and this is why he beats people. But if Floyd Mayweather was to do this and this will make his style 10 times better. And that's what I think he's brought to the table when I'm this time in my training camp. And just having, you know, great training partners like Bibiano Fernandez, he was there, so he really held me on my ground. I mean, he's a killer when he gets on your back. And having sparring with my coaches, Matt Hume, wrestling with him, I mean, all the guys that I'm training with are always bigger than me, and they're better than me, so I'm always fighting for my life when I'm training. I'm not in there running those guys down to the ground. They're running me into the ground, and then I have to pick myself back up like, all right, let's do it again. Show them what you got. So I think that's going to be a huge factor on my part, but, you know, Dominick, he's a puzzle that hasn't been solved, and he's a great champion, and he knows how to put people where he's comfortable, and I just got to make sure I go in there and do my best to stick to my game plan and, you know, just go after it.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
Our next question comes from Michael Smith of AOL.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. I want to start with Stefan and Pat, but the question is probably relevant to Dominick and Demetrius as well. But could you talk about how much of an advantage you think reach is in mixed martial arts? And, Stefan, how will you take advantage of your reach? And Pat, how will you try to negate that advantage? And how relevant is it to this fight?
In all actuality, I personally don't think that it's going to be that big of a deal in this fight, and I mean that from this point of view. But everybody Stefan comes across, fights, and or most likely trains with is shorter than he is. Everybody that I come across, fight, and train with is taller than I am. So I think that this fight is going to be pretty much, I mean, this is going to be like everything normal. I mean, how often does 7-foot-tall Stefan Struve come across someone taller than him that he can move around with? Probably not very likely. And I don't know how many heavyweights, I haven't run across many heavyweights who are shorter than I am by like a big change, like I am by like really like extremely shorter. So I think this is going to be like, I mean, pretty normal. Like I'm accustomed to guys being taller than I am, whereas Stefan is accustomed to guys being shorter than he is. So like this is going to like play into our games, into our strategies, into our timing, reach, distance. Like this is going to play directly like into what we've been training for every day since we started the job, like since we started this sport. So I don't think this fight is going to make it any different. I mean, I'm sure, like I said, I don't think he's run across any. I don't think there's any 9-foot-tall kickboxers out there.
I haven't found him yet, but yeah. Well, of course, I'm a lot taller than he is, and I plan on using that reach, of course, and staying on the outside and pick him apart. But yeah, we'll see, man. I like to fight and engage and brawl too, but what I said, we'll see what happens on Saturday. And I think that if I use my reach the right way, then I think it's a big advantage for me.
Stefan, just to follow up, Stefan, do you think, looking back at a couple of the fights you've lost, do you think in hindsight you could have done a better job of using your reach to your advantage and not letting your opponents get inside and test your chin?
Yeah, of course, and well, the last fight I made a stupid mistake of coming in with a strike when he was coming in for that punch, and yeah, I should have used my reach in a better way in some other fights, but we've been working on that with new coaches too, and I improved a lot in that, and always working on getting better with that and get on the outside and just trying to use my reach the way I should, and I think I'm really starting to pick it up. So I plan to show it on Saturday.
Great, and then also for Dominick and Demetrius, another pretty sizable difference in reach. Maybe not to quite the extent of Stefan and Pat, but what are your thoughts on how important that could be to you in the fight?
Reach is a big deal as long as you know how to use it. I mean, if a short fighter has to know how to fight like a short fighter, a tall fighter has to know how to fight like a tall fighter. I mean, it's very easy for a tall fighter to get sucked into the inside game and just want to stand and on the inside and throw heavy. But it's really the only way reach is worth anything is if you know how to use it and fight like a tall fighter. So the idea is just to keep the range where you want it, and then that can nullify speed, because then you're forcing the guy to telegraph things, telegraph punches, telegraph kicks, telegraph shots. So I definitely believe that reach is a big advantage, and it's something that can be used very effectively if known how.
And I would say I would agree with Dominick. You can have the tallest fighter in the world, and if he doesn't understand range control and distance and have good footwork and understand his reach and fight like a tall fighter, then it doesn't matter about reach. I fought Miguel Torres, and he has a reach size of heavyweights, but as long as I control that distance and go in whenever I want to and back out whenever I want to, or make him overextend or come for me, then if you have good footwork, you can understand how to make your reach longer and how to let the taller fighter close the distance for you, so you don't have to travel as far. And the only bad thing about when you have such a huge reach and height advantage, then you got one guy who's the rabbit and who is the wolf who's going to chase the person, and it can make for a really boring fight, or it can make for a really, fantastic fight, depending on how much the person wants to engage or not engage. Because, if a taller person is always, I'm not saying running, but always trying to keep that distance, and the person always trying to get in, then it could be just, a jab clinic, So it all depends. Like, I agree with Dominick, and if the person has to use that range and close the distance and just keep it where he's comfortable, then, range is a huge part, so.
Yeah, but it's also based on, whoever the short guy is in the situation, too. I mean, like I said, in the case for Stefan and I, he's accustomed to training with really short guys. Like, everybody in the world is considered really short, like in the according, like standing next to him. But then in the case of Dominick, in the case of Demetrius and like myself, we're really accustomed to training with really tall guys. So you can have great range, but if the person across from you, like, is accustomed to that, I don't know, they could void each other out, or it could work really well. But I don't think that me standing across from Stefan is going to be any different than every day he puts gloves on and punches someone. Like, I take it I haven't come across anyone who's 7 feet tall. I've been around really tall, long guys before, but that's a little bit taller than normal. But I'm pretty sure he's trained with like really short guys, just like I've trained with really tall guys. So I think that this could turn out to be a really awesome fight, to where really when it comes down to it, my short arms won't matter. His really long arms we might cancel each other out in a way, and it might stand there and take a long time for this fight to get finished. Or maybe he can keep me on the end of a jab, the way people eventually started keeping Mike Tyson away from them with a jab. Like, who knows? It could be a little bit of anything. Anything could happen like that night. So range, it can be good, but at the same time it can be bad too.
Hey Pat, did you make an effort to bring in anyone particularly tall to use as a sparring partner?
Yeah, I found a guy named Black Struve. His name is Maurice Green. He's 6'9", which is an inch or two shorter than Stefan. But it was a guy that I brought in. Came in like maybe 3 weeks total. A wrestler who turned kickboxer. His name is Maurice the Pirate Green out of Chicago, and he's an up-and-coming, force is what you could call him. Like, he's coming up. So he was the guy that I brought in order to find my range, in order to work on my distance. Also, every once in a while we would have Marty Morgan, who's 6'3", stand on like a stool for me to throw punches and kicks at.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys.
Our next question comes from Dave Diebert of Post Media News.
Hi, thanks, guys. For Dominick, this will be the 6th title fight in WEC or UFC for you. How comfortable are you now in that main event slot? Having your face on the posters, name in the marquee, and compare that, if you could, to maybe your first title fight, or as you're just sort of getting used to being in that position.
I wouldn't say you ever get used to like having your face on posters and all that stuff. What you get used to is dealing with the media, dealing with the hype, dealing with the trash talking on Twitter and Facebook and all that crap. That's what you get used to. And you get used to just like being in the big show and have, there's a lot of pressures that come with it. So you kind of get used to it, and definitely I can't even compare to what I feel now when I fight these fights compared to when I fought my very first title fight back in WEC. There's no comparison. It's night and day. And there's been a lot of years I've had in this sport. There's been a lot of experience. I've gone the distance several times. So my experience is just definitely something that helps me through these fights, and it's something that gives me a lot of confidence. It's definitely something that's picked up over the years, no doubt.
What, compared to those early experiences, what's the biggest difference? What have you learned to just handle everything better?
What you learn is you're your own worst enemy. Really, you really just kind of, it's all about how you take it yourself. It's all about how you visualize things. It's all about how you decide to handle each experience that comes towards you. I mean, and really the best way to handle it is to know that you've trained to your utmost severity to make sure that you're ready for every fight. As long as I'm training to failure on every single practice, I have the confidence that I'm going to go in there and win every single fight that I'm in. And I know that I'm in awesome shape. I'll never get tired no matter how many rounds I go. And that gives me the confidence that I need to go in and main event a card and know that I'm going to put on a show and I'll never have a boring fight because I'm ready for the fight. I'm in shape for the fight. And really learning how to just make the experience fun. I'm in a 1 percentile of the entire world that gets to do a job that I love, and on top of that, I get to do it in front of millions of people. The trick for me is just to know that I'm out there having fun. When I'm out there fighting, it's fun time. When I'm training every day in the grind and practice, doing 2 and 3 a days, getting the crap beat out of me by a new guy every single round, that's when it sucks. That's when I'm nervous to come in to train every day. That's when I'm miserable. This next week, after I get this weight off, when it's fight time, it's fun time, and it's time to go out there and put on a show and have a good time.
Okay, thanks, Dominick. Demetrius, how are you doing in terms of keeping your emotions in check going into this?
I'm keeping emotions in check, but just looking at it as any other fight. It's a great opportunity that the UFC has given to me, and I'm going to try to take full advantage of the opportunity. And I just look at it this way. There's two outcomes. There's a lot of outcomes. I go out there and Dominick Cruz can just outright destroy me. Knee tap me and do his thing, and I lose the title fight, and then I go back home and I go back to the gym and get ready for the next fight and keep on going. Or I go out there and I can put on a fantastic show and win the title and go back home and enjoy my life, and then go back to the gym and get ready for the next fight. So either way, it is what it is. I'm going to go out there and fight for the title. I'm very excited. It's going to be a nice 5-round fight, get more time in the octagon, and just go do it. If I think, man, I'm fighting the Dominator, oh, man, it's going to be a hard fight. I mean, it is going to be a hard fight, don't get me wrong, but I'm not, psyching myself out. I'm like, it's any other fight. I just got to go out there and be the best Mighty Mouse on October 1st. And just go out there and perform and see what happens, And if I just keep myself on that, path, and then I don't oversight myself. I don't, it just feels better for me to think that way instead of like, oh, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna do my thing, he can't stop me, blah 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 blah. I just go out there and anything can happen.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, you guys.
Our next question comes from Damon Martin of MMAweekly.com.
Hey guys, first question is for Demetrius. I know you had talked about in the past, eventually dropping down to flyweight and, that being maybe your better weight class. And I kind of look at you like Frankie Edgar. People keep telling him he's supposed to be a featherweight, but here he is, the lightweight champion of the world. Do you kind of see a comparison there? And then, the spot you're in right now with the chance to, pull a big upset kind of like he did with BJ Penn?
I see me as the same boat as Frankie Edgar, like how we're both small guys. The biggest I ever get is maybe 142. I mean, if I check jump on the scale right now, probably like weigh 140, 139 and a half. And I like it that way just because, if I want to fight at 2-weight class, if I can, like if UFC, if I go out here and, win, then that's fantastic. If I go out there and I lose, and then, they bring in 125, like I would love to fight at 125 and 135 at the same time. But as far as being compared to Frankie, I guess you can look at it that way.
And obviously you mentioned, earlier you've quit your full-time job to really focus on this fight. I remember when you did your first, UFC press conference, it was a kind of a cool moment. You were excited to be there. I mean, is it pretty crazy to think of the ride you've been on just in the last year in your career?
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. This whole year, I mean, I remember going back to work and I'm going to go towards this fight, and I'm walking around. Everybody's like, what the hell is wrong with your leg? I was like, I don't know. I think it's broke. And they're like, you might want to get that checked out. And I was like, no, it's fine. I need to get this order out for the customer. And, it's been a fantastic year, and I hope to end it with a bang and get ready for 2012.
Excellent. And a question for Stefan. Stefan, going into this fight, you and Pat have had some fun, doing some back-and-forth videos and some pictures and stuff online. And I know you got into a bit of a, kind of a talking battle with Sean McCorkle, and it got, pretty heated before the fight. What's the biggest difference when the fun stuff you and Pat are doing, and why was it so different than what you had going on with Sean McCorkle?
Well, when McCorkle started talking trash, on Twitter, I didn't know the guy, so I was like, what the hell is he talking about? All the stuff he put on there. And, this time, me and Pat know each other for about 2.5 years, and we've always been cool with each other, So this isn't really trash talk in my opinion. It's more of hyping up the fight and just getting the fans engaged a little bit, and people are looking forward for the fight because of that. And it has been fun, we had fun with it, and now it's fight on Saturday, so it's going to be cool.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, guys.
Our next question comes from Stephen Morocco of MMAJunkie.com.
Hey, Demetrius. I'm wondering if your decision to do MMA full-time, does it rest at all on the outcome of Saturday's fight? Is this a permanent decision for you, or is there maybe any added pressure since you've made this, you've committed to this full-time in advance of this fight?
I don't think there's no added pressure. I'm really looking forward to see if it, if it helps. And I told it's helped my training camp and make sure my body is well prepared and I can push my body to extra limits and not have to go to work all sore, then get back into actually give my body the rest and be able to eat when I need to eat to be able to, make sure my body performs. And, it's always in the back of my head, I can go out here and get absolutely destroyed, and then next thing you know, I fight again and get knocked out, then fight again, I get destroyed again, and next thing you know, I'm fighting these, Titan SC or whatever, and who knows, I might be back in the warehouse working somewhere, and, I'm just grateful to be a full-time fighter, and I'm going to go after it on Saturday. I mean, what do I got to lose? I mean, people don't even know who I am, so I'm going out there trying to make a name for myself and just take it to them.
And Dominick, what do you think about Demetrius' decision over Miguel? A lot of fans were debating about the outcome. How did you see the fight?
I honestly watched that fight because of the debate. There was such a debate about it. And, I mean, my opinion on the whole matter is Miguel Torres didn't want to be on his back, period. Nobody wants to fight off of their back. I mean, he has a good guard, but when he tried to use it, he didn't get the submissions. If you don't get a submission, everybody knows in jiu-jitsu you can try for 1,000,000 submissions, but they don't count unless you get them. So he didn't finish Demetrius on the ground, which is what he was expecting to be able to do. Demetrius knew he wanted to put him on his back and put him on his back. So in my opinion, Demetrius controlled the fight. It was a close fight. I mean, the judges could have scored it either way. But I could see how they scored it in Demetrius' favor because he controlled the fight in the aspect of he kept Miguel Torres on his back, and he kept the fight where he wanted to keep it, and he was comfortable there. So, I mean, you got to understand the way judges are scoring cards these days. If you're not going to get the finish, then you got to understand, okay, I'm not able to submit this guy. He should have made an adjustment in the second round. Man, this guy's hard to catch. He's hard to submit. I need to use my jiu-jitsu to get back up to my feet so that I can try to make this a closer fight standing. You got to make adjustments throughout the fight to figure out a way to win. I feel that Miguel Torres was happy, was okay with being on his back, thinking he was going to get the finish. He didn't get the finish on the ground, so he lost the decision. That's kind of the way the cookie crumbles, and you got to be aware of where you're at on the. Got to be aware where you're at on the scorecards, man.
Yeah. Shifting gears a little bit, did your life change at all after 132? I mean, headlining a major pay-per-view. I mean, I know you said you bought a proper bed and a TV. Anything that changes to your life?
No, man. It kind of goes to the fact of the way Demetrius said that, our careers. You're always one fight away from being forgotten, in my opinion. The only thing people remember is your last fight. So it's very hard, to go out there and just make all kinds of buy all kinds of stuff, be driving this awesome car, have all kinds of stuff going on, and have all kinds of bills. I'd rather just keep my life the way it is, live very cheap. That way, God forbid I bust my eye socket and I can't fight for a year. I don't have a stack full of bills that I got to pay without income coming in. So I really don't change my life up much. The only thing that's changed is I get recognized a little bit more because I'm fighting on the biggest stage in the planet, being the UFC for MMA. And, a little bit more respect here and there. And God has blessed me, so I'm happy with it.
What are you driving these days?
Say what?
What are you driving these days?
I can't hear you.
What kind of car are you driving nowadays?
Oh, what am I driving? Sorry, it's all raspy or something in the background. I'm driving just a Honda Civic.
Wait.
Yeah, have a giant tailpipe on it.
What lessons did you take from that the last fight? Obviously, it was a spectacular ending.
I can't hear anything. I don't know.
Stephen, this is Dave Schaller. We can't hear you. You're going to have to dial back and on a better connection. Let's go ahead and go to Franklin McNeil from ESPN.
Hey, my question is for Dominick. Dominick, since you've moved down to bantamweight, you found a lot of success there. You've become a champion and one of the best fighters pound for pound in the world. But if you get past Demetrius, is it possible that you would consider at some point moving back to featherweight? And if Jose Aldo continues to defend his title successfully there, would you like to try your chances there?
You know, I don't ever turn down possibilities like that. I'm never going to say no to something like that. I mean, that's an awesome step up. But I'm really not worried about it right now. I got somebody to beat, somebody that you can't really focus on. Well, I wonder after this fight if I'm going to move to 145. I haven't really thought about it, to be honest. I've done 2 camps back-to-back, getting ready for UFC 132 and now getting ready for Demetrius. And each fight I'm very focused on the fighter that I'm up against, and that's it. So I haven't really put much thought into it. But I will say that I'm not going to turn down the opportunity if it comes up in the future.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
How come nobody asked anybody if they're ever moving up to heavyweight?
Our next question is from Anthony
Only
Springer
to
at
fight you.
FightNews.com.
Only to fight you, Pat.
Yeah, but I'm too cute.
I'll hop around like a chicken.
You're taller than me.
Anthony Springer of FightNews.com has our next question.
Yes, this question is for Dominick. Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of your style and just kind of finding the rhythm that you're in now when you fight in terms of keeping guys off balance and how all of that came about?
It just comes from a lot of training, man. I live in the gym. I don't do anything else. It's my life, and really, it's a lot of drilling, a lot of pad work with my coach, Eric Del Ferro. We're always working new things and working new techniques to improve and keep people guessing. And that's basically what it's about, is just every single fight coming out looking like a new fighter, adding something new to the arsenal, and, just doing what I do best and adding to it every single fight is basically what it comes down to. It started out with just trying to find a way to not take a lot of damage and inflict a lot of damage at the same time. And with that mind process, it's just escalated from there and built into my style. So it's kind of something that Eric Del Ferro's helped me a lot with, and then I got a lot of top-notch wrestlers that I work with as well that help me with that.
And was there a fight? I know that a lot of fighters say that doing things in the gym versus doing things in the fight is sometimes very different. Was there a fight where you realized that everything had kind of come together for you in terms of the evolution?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you say that one more time?
I know a lot of fighters say that doing things, in training versus doing things in a fight is a little bit different. Was there a particular fight for you where you felt like things had finally come together in terms of your style?
I would say not really. Maybe. I would say probably Charlie Valencia. When I fought Charlie Valencia was the fight that I really started to believe that, that I could piece things together like I did in practice, and it would work exactly the way it worked in practice. You do pad work every day, you spar every day, you do all this work every single day in practice, and sometimes you second guess, is it really going to be like this when you get out there and fight on the big stage? And when I fought Charlie Valencia, that's kind of how it went down, and it kind of like flicked a switch in my brain where I said, man, it's the same thing. How you train, how you practice is the way you're going to perform. So it's just about giving everything you can, doing everything 100% in practice so that your body doesn't know any other way. When you get out to the fight, you perform the same way you train.
Thank you. And my next question is for Pat. You know, you kept, you know, through the ups and downs of your career, you kept the, you know, managed to stay smiling. Can you talk a little bit about what keeps things fun for you?
What keeps what fun?
Just the entire atmosphere. You know, you've had a smile through the ups and downs of your career, at least in front of the media. Can you talk about what keeps things, you know, fun and what keeps you smiling?
I mean, this is you just, I mean, you know, you hear people say living the dream. I mean, ever since I was a kid, all I've wanted to do was be a ninja. That's it. I mean, that's all I wanted to do. I mean, I used to collect swords and nunchucks and have ninja stars on me while I was at school, and, you know, little blow darts and bow staffs and all types of stuff like that, but they were really just broomsticks. I mean, every Halloween I was a ninja growing up. That's all I ever wanted to do was just be Tong Po from Kickboxer. I was a Van Damme fanatic, Ninja Turtles, like playing Street Fighter with Sagat. Like, that was the greatest character I ever made. Like, that's all I've ever wanted to do. And now we actually, you know, those of us who want to be ninjas can be real live ninjas just without the weapons for now. I mean, this is just, I can actually make a living and be an adult doing something that I've wanted to do ever since I was 1. I mean, this is cool. Like, I've accepted. Sometimes you're going to lose. Like, you can't win all the time. Eventually, you've got to fall, man. You've got to lose. That's the only way that we're going to, yeah, that's one of the best ways to grow and get better, is to lose fights. I mean, so if I lose a fight, I mean, yeah, it sucks. I don't want it to happen, but as long as I know that I went out there and I fought my heart out and I did my best, whether it's broken limbs or whatnot, but just keep on coming, like, I know that it's got to happen. So that, like, I don't go home and sit down. It's like when you fail a test in school and then you come home and you're just sulky for like 5 days. There's nothing you can do about that. You can be pissed all day and night. I know it does suck, but once the test is, you turn it in, it's done. Once you lose a fight, you lost, man. That's it. Just, like, either learn from it and get better, or just go sit in a chair and rot away. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, there's fights you win, there's winning, and there's learning experiences. That's it. We win or we learn. One of the two. Only way you really lose is if you come out of an experience and you didn't gain anything from that. You know, you stay the same person. If you wake up the next day and if you wake up tomorrow and you're still the same guy that you are today, then you are not advancing, you are not growing, you are not learning, man. That's it to me, man. Other than that, it's just a real live video game. Like, I'm Short Sagat. That's all I've ever wanted to be, right? I can finally do it now. And get paid to do it? That's ridiculous.
We'll go next to Dave Meltzer of Yahoo Sports.
Yeah, this is for Demetrius. Two things. One is, you know, it was talked about earlier in the call. They asked Dominick about your fight with Miguel Torres and what, you know, he thought as far as the decision, and it was a decision that, you know, possibly could have gone either way. When you were in the fight and when the fight was over, before it was red, I mean, were you confident you had it, or were you nervous? And looking back, like, what makes you think that you won, or if you thought maybe it was really close? I mean, what was kind of your thoughts on that decision?
You know, going into the, excuse me, you know, when the judges, after the fight, you know, I learned a lot of things, and I remember, like, one day when I learned a lot from, like, Brad Pickett, and he always told me, like, he was like, you know, when I'm fighting, I don't care what's going on. I always keep a tally in my head what's going on in the fight. And when I fight Miguel Torres, I know he has a dangerous ground game, and, you know, like Dominick said, you know, you can throw your legs up all day and, you know, try to submit somebody, but, you know, submission is, like, when you submit somebody, it's done, it's over with, you know, and I control him on the top, and I wish I never broke my leg, because I felt like on the feet I was winning the stand-up battle, and that was the game plan, was to stand up with him and just take his legs out from him and just, you know, try to knock him out. But, you know, injuries happen during fights, and, you know, I'm not the type of person who just quits after something breaks. You know, I trained 3 months hard to fight for 15 minutes, and I'm not just going to throw in a towel when something breaks. So I made an adjustment in the fight, and which was to put him on his back where he's actually comfortable on his back. And, you know, there's a couple times I passed guard. You know, me and him had heel hook positions. He mounted me a couple times, but when he was on top of me, he really couldn't get anything off. Like, he just held me, and whenever I got the chance to reverse him, I reversed him. And if he would use the same retrospect as Dominick said, you know, sweep me and then get back to his feet and start to, you know, throw punches and bang, then, you know, he probably wouldn't have won the fight. But when you look at, you know, the aspect of the fight, you know, stand-up, I won that department. Wrestling, I won that department. Jiu-jitsu, I don't know. I passed guard. I had his back more times. I don't even think he had my back once, but he did have me in a triangle. You know, he did have, you know, a couple, you know, guillotine tips, but like Dominick says, you know, I can run in there and jump on Dominick and pull guard and throw a guillotine, and he escapes. I do it again. He escapes. I do it again. He escapes. Now, people will be like, oh, Dominick sure lost that fight. You had him in
500 submission attempts. So, you know, you got to look at, you know, a certain ways. Yeah, you can try to submit somebody, but if you don't put them to sleep or break something, then you tried, but you failed. So you got to look at it both ways. Just like if a wrestler takes a shot in a wrestling tournament and he doesn't get the shot, there's no point scored. It's dead even. But if I shoot and take you down and let's say you're recovering and I don't get your back, then there's still no points, you know, scored because you don't get points till you have control of somebody. And then in that entire fight on the ground, Miguel had control of me maybe a couple of times, but each time he did, I was reversed him and got back to my feet and started the process again.
We'll go next to Neil Springer of Toronto Sun.
Hey, question for Pat. You mentioned wins versus learning experiences. Just want to know specifically what you learned from the Congo fight.
Well, before the Congo fight, you know, I mean, you know, you always hear people say that anything is possible, anything is possible, anything is possible. Where I always knew that that was the truth, but when I get into the ring, I always have the mindset every time I step in, no matter who it's against. I step in thinking, you know what? It is impossible for you to win. No matter who you are, it is impossible for you to win. I'm coming here. I know what I've done. I know what I've gone through, and I'm sure you've done some training yourself, but it's just impossible. It just can't be done. Well, I mean, apparently after that last experience, anything is possible. Like, we all know that's the truth, but, you know, I mean, just coming into it, I mean, maybe I was a little bit overzealous. Maybe I wasn't aggressive enough. Maybe, you know, who knows? I mean, anything can happen. Like, anybody can win. I mean, it's just the saying is true. It's any given Sunday, anybody can win, anybody can lose. You can't doubt anyone. You can't sleep on anybody. You can't sleep on the small guy. The little guy can win. The big guy can win. The fat, chubby kid can win. Like, the nerd can win. Like, anybody can win. Anybody can lose any day, any fight, any experience whatsoever. And, I mean, that's just more solidified that for me, is that it is possible. At any point in time, you never know. You can't count anybody out, even when they're unconscious, twice in the first round.
And you've been kind of criticized in the past, I think, following the Crow Cop fight. Some said, you know, you weren't aggressive enough, and then you just kind of mentioned that maybe you got overzealous against Congo. Are you almost kind of in a situation where you can't win after these fights?
No. The fighters, and everybody on this phone can attest to this. We can't win for nothing. Even with a win, we lose. I've got a 1-second knockout where the ref said fight, I throw a high kick, knock a guy out, and people still got me in there and said that I had the stupidest haircut they had ever seen. Or they hate my shorts. Like, we can't win ever, like, no matter what happens. In the Crow Cop fight, I punch him in the head, knock him down, but I don't jump on top of him. And people say, I can't believe you're not aggressive enough, man. You don't have no killer instinct. You're not aggressive. You showed him too much respect. So in the Congo fight, I punch him in the head, knock him down, and jump on top of him. And the exact same people, because I never erased the messages, are saying, you shouldn't have jumped on top of him. Too much killer instinct. You didn't respect him, like, you respected him way too much. You know what I mean? Like, there's no win or lose. You know, I mean, if I punch somebody in the head and knock him out, people say that my ground game sucks. If I submit somebody, I guarantee this now. The day that I submit someone in the UFC, people are going to sit there and say, but I thought you were supposed to be this badass striker. What the hell are you doing groundwork? You're supposed to be this. We want to see you can't win, no matter what. It's just not going to happen. Some people are going to love you. Most people are going to hate you. That's a fact. That's part of the job. That's what we've all had to accept, is that people are just going to hate our guts no matter what.
All right, thanks. And for the record, I own 3 swords and watch Kickboxer on the weekend, so.
Hey, man, that's
All right, thanks, Pat.
All right.
We'll go next to Neil Davidson of the Canadian Press.
Yes, thank you. We're coming off a pretty impressive performance by Jon Jones on the weekend, and I wonder if I could ask the fighters what they thought of his performance and whether they think he's going to be the one who's going to be able to retain the light heavyweight title, which has bounced around a fair bit for a while, and what kind of fighter they think could beat Jones. Maybe if I could start with Pat.
What is it going to take to beat Jon Jones?
Yes, and what did you think of his performance?
I thought his performance was exactly what I was expecting. I mean, to a certain extent. I think it wasn't necessarily him, but the feeling that I got was that Rampage was planning on bringing Jon Jones into rounds 4 and 5, but just didn't take into consideration where the fight was going to be, and that if you do let the fight go further on, you're also going to get tired. The way that I think someone is, like, Jon Jones has the Mike Tyson effect. Same thing as Anderson Silva. Both of those guys are going to lose Eventually, it has to happen. Everybody's got to lose. But what has to happen is someone has to get in the ring not afraid of them. And that's what I feel has to happen. Like the Mike Tyson effect. Everybody got in the ring with Mike Tyson in his early career. Like, expect, like, any minute now I'm going to lose. Like, they just waited. I wonder how long it's going to go before he knocks me out. And I think that's what happens. I mean, just also his last few fights, you see guys get in the ring with Jon Jones, and they know it. You can just see in their body language, at some point in time, he's going to do something ridiculous that I can't identify, and something's going to hit me, and I'm just going to wake up later on. You know what I mean? Like, the guy can fight you anywhere. He can take you anywhere. But he's also developed this reputation and this aura about him that's just really intimidating. And I think that in order for someone to take him on, in order for someone to take on like Anderson Silva, the way someone eventually had to step to Mike Tyson was someone has to get in there fearless, not care about what he can do. Like, you have to get in there and just not, so what, he's going to spin right, he's going to do something flashy, but just get in there and just go at him, like, fearlessly is what's going to have to happen.
Thanks. And Stefan, what do you think of Jones, and what do you think is needed to beat him?
This weekend, I think he showed a great use of his reach and all the attacks he used, you know, especially later in the rounds, from a distance were really good, you know. And I think you need to have someone who's not afraid to strike with him and not afraid to end up on his back, you know, a really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy maybe. And I think that may be the key to beat him. So maybe someone with great leg locks, you know. He's got long legs, so it's maybe easy to get a hold of, you know. But yeah, for the rest, it's been really impressive what he's shown so far, and it's going to be really interesting to see his future fights, and especially the fight with Rashad. You know, it's going to be really interesting because I think Rashad is a lot quicker than him. You know, so I think that may be key too.
Thank you, Dominic. What are your thoughts about your fellow champion?
I think Jon Jones is showing, you know, what you need to have to be a dominant champion, to be honest. It's like he's going out there and he's keeping people guessing from round 1 to round 5. He never comes out the same way. He never throws the same combinations. It's always switching it up. And he's always threatening. You never quite know. When you're in a clinch with him, you don't know if he's going to go for an inside trip. You don't know if he's going to go for outside throw. You don't know if he's going to drop to a single leg. He just keeps you guessing. And, you know, that's a big part of this game is to be unpredictable. And that's something he does well. The person that's going to beat Jon Jones, in my opinion, is the person that has great striking fundamentals in the sense of defense, checking kicks, great boxing. I think you got to be able to pressure him with hands and have the fundamentals of closing the distance because of his use of reach so much. So you got to know how to fight like a short fighter, like Tyson-type style, where he knew how to get past people's jab, get past people's reach. But you also have to have kickboxing fundamentals to check kicks and be ready for the push kicks that he throws. And you got to have that wrestling aspect. The only way to beat Jon Jones, in my opinion, is to put him on his back. You have to be able to put him on his back in occasions during the fight. If you don't put that guy on his back, he gets a good rhythm and he gets good comfort on his feet, and he uses his range so well that you can't really keep him off balance. So you got to be able to add those takedowns in there on Jon Jones in order to get his rhythm off and to tire him out a little bit. And nobody really has that mixture of aspects that he's fought so far, so I'm curious to see when it's going to happen.
What if you punch him in the head, though? That we haven't seen yet. I don't think anyone's landed a punch or a kick on that guy that was effective at all. Like,
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Everything you said that's just how I think it would happen too. But I'm really curious to know what would happen if someone punched him in his neck really hard. Like,
that's what happens with the boxing fundamentals. You gotta be able to get past his reach. And that's a good boxer will give him hell. A great boxer with kickboxing fundamentals of defense will give him hell, in my opinion, with takedowns.
Thanks, Dominic. And finally, Demetrius, your thoughts on Jon, if you could?
I thought Jon Jones' performance on that Saturday was very impressive. My personal opinion, I thought he was just playing with Rampage. I think he could have finished Rampage wherever he wants, and I think, if you go back and look at all Jon Jones' fights, when he fought Shogun and Rampage, I think he goes in there and for his own mental sake, like he puts guys and lets them know that he can finish them. Like, I think it was the beginning of the third round, he jumped into the triangle attempt on Rampage. I think he wanted to put a Rampage in mind, like, yeah, I can finish you if I want. And then when he did the shot and threw him up in the air and walked away, I think he was, letting Rampage know, like, hey, bro, I'm on a different level than you are. All the stuff you said, I'm going to make you eat your words. You don't respect me. I want to give you respect. And then I think the fourth round when he had Rampage, Rampage's back, is all right, I'm going to just finish you now. And I think I think it's his time now. I think it's his era. He's always learning. He's very humble. And I think that's very hard to beat somebody like that who always goes out there and he's going to try to finish you, like when, Anderson, Jon Jones, and Joe Diablo, when they step in the ring, they're trying to kill you. They don't care what it takes. They're going to finish you. And those guys, I mean, it's just they're in that era right now where they're just unbeatable, and I don't see anybody beating those guys in a very long time.
I'd like to turn the conference back to Dave Schaller for closing remarks.
All right, guys. Thanks to all the media who tuned in today. It's been a very busy few weeks, and we cap it off this Saturday with Dominick Cruz defending the title against Demetrius Johnson, Pat Barry versus Stefan Struve. And then after that event, obviously, we rolled to Houston for the big double title fight event. A lot of things going on this week that I wanted to run through very briefly. Tomorrow in San Jose at 1 p.m. at the San Pedro Square Market, we will have our UFC 139 press conference. That, again, will be at 1 o'clock. It will feature Kung Lee, Vanderlei Silva, Shogun Hua, and Dan Henderson. And also, just real fast, as you head to Washington, D.C., we do have quite a few media events going on in D.C. this week. It starts Wednesday at noon Eastern Time with the UFC Open workouts at the Warrior Gym in Alexandria, Virginia. We will also have a press conference on Thursday. That'll be at the Newseum, which is on 555 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest in Washington, D.C. That starts at 12 p.m. Again, thanks to everybody for joining today, and we will see you in Washington, D.C., and also tomorrow in San Jose.
This does conclude today's conference. Thank you all for your participation.